What's up, everybody? Hope you're having a good day, and I hope you're ready to get on to Module 3. Before we get started and everything, just so you know, SAU makes me put in a 4-week uh, grade as to where you're at, if you're attending class, things like that. Because we were a week behind from the snow and everything, it didn't give me a chance to get everything graded or get you to where I would want you necessarily to fully reflect where your grade is at. So that said, if you don't like what you see, keep in mind I don't have absolutely everything graded. I try to get most of the big stuff this morning, but it's not everything. And the other, it's early. So I've noticed a few of you, maybe things aren't coming in, maybe you're still getting in on the semester. Now might be a good time to analyze, do I have the time commitment for a cinema class? And am I able to kind of get myself, I wouldn't call it whole, but just to get made up? So, again, don't ever be afraid to email me. My email is everywhere on here, and I put it out there. Don't wait till something after something is due to try and get an extension, try and get me before. But let's work something out. You're paying a lot of money for these courses, and I want you to get the best bang for your buck. So, that's a little bit of housekeeping. Again, that's not reflective of the grade you're going to, in the course with. It's just, I think, showing the school and maybe the banks that are loaning you the money where you're at with things. So there's a lot of things that go into play with that, but I wouldn't stress too much. But just be on top of that, know where you're at. Probably by Wednesday or Thursday, everything will be graded. I think actually most of it is now, like 90% of it. Actually, all of it might be by now. Maybe it was before. I don't know. I digress. Check your grade by Wednesday, and that should accurately reflect where you are at the end of Module 2. So here is, for both classes, just something I wanted to show you, a couple tricks and tips. Oops, that's not what I want. Haha. Hey, there's me. Look at those leading lines I created there. Um, OBS is the program that I'm using. If you ever, maybe some of you gamers know that. I don't know. All right. So I wanted to show you warp stabilization really quick. It's easy. Now, when we're on our phones, things can get a little bit shaky. So there's an advantage. Like my phone only shoots 24 frames per second in 4K. Remember, 4K is a different aspect ratio than 16 by 9 or HD, as we call it. Um, but there's advantages to that. So we export in 16 by 9 because that's what computers and TVs, that's what they're going to want, right? To put it out there. Otherwise, um, it's going to kind of zoom it in. So oftentimes it's advantageous to shoot in 4K. One, because you can get more than one shot, as I kind of mentioned in my last little opening to my lecture, that you can scale 4K down to 16 by 9, or you can kind of keep it in in that. Now this um, shot in 4K, but I can go into a certain percentage. I have that one scaled in. Okay, so this is what you're seeing now. 4K footage in 9. So if I click on this footage, you can see that these blue lines on here, um, right here, are reflecting. Let me open up this window a little more too. They're reflecting where the edges of this 4K footage are. So I can grab onto that and I can manipulate it. See, that's the end of the 4K footage. So I can manipulate that, and this frame right here is representing 16 by 9 because when I created this sequence, my settings, I made sure to tell it I'm 1920 by 1080. That is 16 by 9. That's not 4K. 4K is a different width by height. right? So I can get more shots out of this if I want. So this is, if I scale it into where it can fit, get it to, where it should be. It might be a little black, but you get the idea. So that's crunching that 4K down into 16:9. That's scaling it to where it'll fit in that aspect ratio. But if I don't do that, right, and if I'm there and I'm just saying, hey, look at this through the lens of the footage being 4K, but the editing being how we're mastering it in 16:9, and of course it's zoomed in. So it's kind of like the edit, what we're mastering in is like we are looking through a window, right? And everything else is blacked out. We can just see through that window. The image on the other side of that window is bigger than the window, right? So this is probably all stuff you know, but I'm just kind of going through it. So to get that image to fit, we scale it down, right? We go to scale to frame size. Again, that's off just because I was playing with it. And you can always get the position and scale by just going there, and it'll get it framed up for you. Um, okay, so how do I use the 4K to my advantage? As you see on this footage, I just shot it, just kind of a random thing, but these phones, because they're light, to get some shake to it. So see, ooh, and some of that's a bit exaggerated, but at the end, it's more subtle. So let's say, um, you're out shooting something, right? And okay, how can I get around this shake? Well, there's a couple things you can do. The way is to add what's called a warp stabilization. So I just went ahead and scaled in, so you can see um, the 4K has kind of been crunched down, and then I went back to the 4K footage here. So we're zoomed in a little bit. Let me take that even more. Let's say like we go this. There's something at the bottom of the screen. Boom! I want my audience to see that. Probably needs to go in even a little bit more. Up to a certain point, you can't like zoom all the way in. You're going to lose quality, but you have some room to get in there. And I do have this set to full. Go down to half so it plays smooth. I might have lost a little quality, but like let's say this especially, I want this to be smooth. All right, I can add what's called a warp stabilizer, and what I do for that, click on these arrows. I'm going to go over to effects, type in, start typing in warp. All I got is WAR, and you'll see it comes up right here under distort, warp stabilizer. Just drag it over and drop it on the clip that you want. What you'll see is this pop up, this analyzing in background, blah 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 blah. It takes it sometimes, depending on how much it is. This is very little footage, so it shouldn't take it too long. But you can see over here, I've gone ahead and done it already. But because it's process one, it might, this isn't the world editing laptop that I have. Let me give that a second, and while that's finishing, still analyzing, I'll show you. If you always make sure you have the footage highlighted that you're working on, and you could go up to effects control, scroll down, and you'll see warp stabilizer right there. You can even see it where it's at right now, so you can see it's kind of working on it, and how much time it still needs. So we're almost there, but sometimes there's no art that I have found to making this work. It's either going to be your best friend or worst enemy. It's either going to make things a lot better or a lot worse. If it's making things a lot worse, don't obviously use it. Use the footage that you have. Um, but you can see right in here, it just got finished. But what you need to kind of go ahead and play with is the percentage. How smooth do you want it? You can adjust that accordingly. Bring it down, like if it's making things worse, bring it down. But you can play with this one here. Usually, position, scale, and rotation. That will it kind of locks in the shot into a specific area, and it tries to keep it there, right? So If you're having trouble, get it over to this position, scale, and rotation. All right. So the other thing, once I've gotten, you can kind of see it's got this red with it on there. What's going to happen is I'm going to put this up at full. That means that that's unrendered files. And once you start adding effects, you do color grading, color correction, things like that, it makes your files a lot bigger. It's putting more information, not necessarily in the file at this point, but um, it's adding a lot more information and making the computer work a lot harder. So what you can do is I'm just going to come right to the edge of that frame. I hit the down arrow there. I'm going to hit I, and then I'm going to go into the frame, hit the down arrow again, and I hit the letter O, and I'm going to come up to sequence, and I'm going to render it into out. Again, this is a process that takes a little while, but if you've been having playback issues ever, like maybe like if you're not working with the greatest computer as well, and it just seems slow, you can do this for the whole project. See, there you go. And it just went ahead and now it's green right there. So this is all rendered into out. So basically what that does is it tells the computer, collect all the information you need on this once and let's stamp it so that the playback is always smooth. Because remember, what Premiere is doing is going back to the location of where you have your files stored, be it on a external hard drive or if you have it on the computer itself. So you're rendering that together as though it's like a preview to the export. So as long as you don't alter anything in there, or it'll stay green, or the part that you manipulate will go back to red. So if you're at a point, let's say you're editing and you're close to wanting to watch what you have edited all the way through, it's 7 minutes worth of stuff. But it's been playing back slow. Of course, you can go over here and go down to 1/4 quality, but it's kind of like I want to make sure everything's in focus sharply. I want to make sure the effects are playing back. I want to make sure the colors right. So we don't want to look at this at less quality. If you do that for all your kind of get it for everything and render into out, and the effects into out, everything. Um, Go have lunch, go get a cup of coffee, come back in a half hour. It should be rendered out. This should all be green and it should play back smoothly for you, and that there's no hiccups. If there's one area that it keeps getting gummy on, just set those in and out points and render from there. But let's see how this did. All right, so you can kind of see it waving. That's kind of what you'll start to see, some waves. So I might need to play with it. Um, but if we're going closer in we are, the more we're going to see that. So it's worth that, and that might just be a little bit that it could. You could read it into it if you want, and do it by hand to set it, but that's a pretty advanced and tedious process. So rendering into out again is under sequence. Just highlight that area with in and out points that you want rendered, and that'll give you a little bit smoother playback so you can be up to full. But of course, as you're assembling, be down low if you're having playback speeds. If you're not, keep it at full. Why not? You can put it at half so you're still seeing it. But that's when you're kind of doing the building blocks. It certainly helps. So always build your story, get your video down where it should be, move on to your audio, um, move on to your effects, and then move on to your color. And certainly titles are easy. Go in that order. Don't worry about jump. I've had some people. It's like they could be at the earliest stages of editing and they're worried about the color. No, always build your edit first. Build your audio world second, and then everything else comes afterwards. But certainly doing your color and things like that, move it to last just because it does use up a lot of memory. It makes things harder. So we don't need to save that. So warp stabilization and rendering into out. Okay, that being that, I'm going to start with intermediate now. So fundamentals, you can jump ahead. All right, intermediate, module 3, lectures. Um, this is one that you all saw in probably most of you. I think I've had everyone, but anyway, this is a review of the formatting and writing of scripts. So that's what you're going to be working on this week is you're going to write that script that you worked on. So please watch this one and just live again in that world of writing screenplays. Module 1 we watched format again. This one's kind of going over it, as well as Celtics, which if you need Celtics resources, free editing software right there is Celtics. You can do Writer Duet. That's another one, just writerduet.com. It's a little bit cleaner of an interface and things work the same. I go back and forth between them. For some reason, Celtics has just been easier. And I don't want to say it's because I've been using it more. It's because I have fewer students saying that it doesn't make sense to them. But given that we've written stuff before, you should know kind of what's there. But refresh your memory. Again, that's under resources, camera and editing resource. And let me just edit that. Add Celtics right there if you're looking for it. All right. So we have that lecture. It's not a very long one, but please watch it because there's a lot of stuff in like verb tense, capitalization. I really go in depth on the formatting. Make sure you watch that really well. This is one we watched last year, again, just to kind of get your mind thinking cinematically. Lighting, simple lighting schemes, how to create effective lighting, especially on no budget. You don't need big fancy lights all the time. Even just having some windows around. um, Tree of Life, which you're going to watch, they didn't use a single light. It was all naturally lit. That's why the actors, when you watch it, you'll see they're always by windows. All right, assignments. Pretty simple for this one. Again, kind of moving you towards understanding a little bit of camera a little bit more. Two simple videos to watch. I believe this one I used in fundamentals, but it's a good research of one or review of one to watch just for some cinematography tips. Uh, Please just write one page review on different things that you've learned while watching these. What did you learn? How can you grow as a cinematographer? How can you take your shots to the next step? Speaking of, I wanted to show you this as well. This was done by some high school students that I have. And this student who unfortunately I didn't get to have the full semester, I don't believe, kind of created something interesting. So when we're talking about shots, especially with um, there's different kinds of movement. I don't know, maybe some of you knew Bug from Magnolia High, great guy. Um, but there's motivated and unmotivated movement. And they're exactly what they sound. Is the camera's movement motivated or unmotivated? Why do we want the camera motivated or unmotivated? Well, it depends. I think now you see a lot more unmotivated camera movements. Now that cameras are lighter, they don't have film attached to them. Um, you can just throw the camera around as much as you want. You can get a great image out of, probably some of you have fantastic iPhones, smartphones of some kind that get incredible, footage. And you can virtually do anything you want with them, especially if you have some kind of stabilizer. But uh, that doesn't necessarily make your movie better that all your footage is unmotivated. So let's watch this really quick. So we see camera is motivated in its movement, panning left. I love this song. Remember asking both my mom. Turn that down. All right, so let me go back.
Remember asking both my mom and dad.
So that was a pretty, uh, we see this shot here and that it's motivated
Remember asking
and
both
it
my mom and
adds a
dad.
reveal. We see this subject again. So planning your motivated movement, that it's not just a pan for the sake of panning. We're panning towards information that the audience needs that's going to help them understand the scene better. So we motivate our movement to make sense. It's not arbitrary. So just little details like that take your shots, take your meaning to a new level. Is there time that you see unmotivated and it works? Yeah. Um, Action films, especially things like that, sci-fi, lots of movement all over the place. Uh, Alfred Hitchcock, who you'll watch this week, and you'll kind of see an example in the film Rope. He believed all camera movement should be motivated. So when we're saying that, think of what is your camera as you're shooting. Is my camera an audience member watching this who's collecting information? Or is my camera an omniscient narrator that knows everything ahead of time and is telling the audience what to look for? So be thinking of that because it makes a difference. I find a shot like this, probably whether they knew it or not at the time, was, and it's hard to explain without being a professor, but to see somebody to create a shot like that, that's uh, revealing in such an intricate way, even though it's just so simple, right? People wouldn't think of that, as opposed to just a shot of the guy in the white and the guy in the purple walking down and then cutting to the guy in the red. How can we tie them all together? Because now they're all in this world together and there's a connection between them. And by panning together, it keeps them in that world together. Adding cuts puts people in the world together, but it fabricates it. And I don't want to say it's not true, but it definitely fabricates it. All right, so be thinking of your, we're going to be working on getting a shot list together and things like that. That be, starting to think about, is my camera telling the story or is my camera observing the story? All right, so watch those 250 words, reflexive response. What did you get out of them? Hopefully something. And you don't have to sit there and listen to me talk, so it's a plus right there. All right, the rough draft of your script. All right, for this assignment, you will write your first or rough draft of your script that you'll work on for the remainder of the semester. You'll be graded on formatting, 70%, formatting, 70%, spelling and grammar, 20%, and effort, 10%. So when I say effort, I mean I can tell if it was written the night before. It's loaded with mistakes. It doesn't seem like you've watched the lectures, and it's just not there. So 10% of that grade. Please watch that lecture. It will help you tremendously, the formatting one. And just don't crunch keys to get to the page count. This script will be based on the story idea that you already came up with in the last module. You can change what you came up with. You can augment it. You can add to it. I wouldn't recommend at this point to come up with a whole new story idea unless it's things like, oh, the building I thought I could get, I can't. I might need more actors. The students that I found change their mind a lot, put themselves weeks behind in the filming process, and ultimately don't like what they did. They get kind of nervous. Am I picking the right thing, or things like that? This class isn't to like make your career with the film that you're making, right? This is practice. So keep it simple on yourself, but not so simple it's boring, right? Challenge yourself, but again, you don't need helicopter shots of ninjas flying in through a building. Keep it simple on yourself. What is within my disposal? Maybe you have a home to shoot in. Maybe you have a couple of friends. Find people who want to act. Reach out to the theater. Find out who the theater teacher is and say, hey, I could use some actors. Um, I don't know who's there now because who I knew moved, is no longer teaching theater there. So I'm not sure who the new theater, but maybe you know. A lot of people tend to just get their friends and again, I'm not looking for the Academy Award performance, but you're going to be happier with your product if they seem like they want to be there and they're taking it seriously. If nothing else, have them take it seriously. Because you're going to show this, you have to submit this to festivals. Whether you get in the festival or not is not up to me, but give yourself a fighting chance. So keep it simple, few characters, few locations that you know you have access to. Um, so your ultimate goal is 4 to 7 minutes. That's 4 to 7 pages. Keep it in that span. Check and double check your formatting. Run the spell checker on it, and you should be good. 4 to 7 pages means if you just do 4 pages, it's got to be pretty much that whole page on page four. 6/8 of a page is what I say. Anything less, I'm going to count as 3 pages. And you can always write 7 and then say I'm planning on cutting down to 5. The shorter your script is, 7 minutes is kind of that long end for film festivals. Now they try and get more and more people at them because it's just a better way for them to make money. So if you have a nice, good short film, you got a good chance of getting in. Um, just full disclosure, probably how I'm going to do this is your classmates are going to read your rough draft, and or at least one person will read your rough draft and give you notes along with myself, just so you get some feedback on it. And then you'll write a second draft. Very common in film. I think the original Star Wars had 30 drafts. Uh, very very common. So the art of writing is the art of rewriting, as they say. Now you'll only need to do 2 drafts unless it's just telling you, I'm like, whew, you need to work on this. Get other people. Tell them your idea. The feedback you get from others is usually a good indication. If they're invested, you know you got something. If you're having to sit there and explain everything and why this works and doesn't, you need to make it, keep your audience in mind and make it simplified. All right. So grammar, spelling, and format issues come with a 2-point deduction. After 15 errors, the script will be given a 0, and the student is required to submit a new draft within 2 days at 50% off total. So passing this class is contingent on you getting an approved rough draft. I won't grade anything else until this is done, um, only because I'm trying to get you to. It's not one building block by itself. It's all the building blocks together that make something, and the rough draft is an important part of that. So, and all your assignments, the previous one, March 3rd. Let me just double check that that's the date I have. March 3rd. Again, these are midnight. Okay, and now just to ease, because you've been shooting a lot of stuff, why don't we just watch a couple movies this time? And for a reason. I would like you to watch the 2 following films. You may have to rent them. When I looked up both, it's in the $3 range. If money is a huge issue, I think that we can come up with something, but you're going to need to send me um, some suggestions of films to pick from. Rope, I'm going to require, and it is in the syllabus that I will have you rent some films. But so hopefully you could just do both. But if you're like, hey, $6 this week is just too much, or this module, I get it. You're college kids. Nobody's got a ton of money. Um, but yeah, I think I was seeing like the $3 range to rent them. They might be on a streaming platform that you already have. I don't know if the library has it, but you can check. Again, if it is an issue, we can alter this one right here, which is called the Tree of Life. I would just have to pick something out that I know you have access to. So just email me if that's an issue, but hopefully it's not. So Rope is a film 1948, and it was shot in, I don't want to say one take. It was shot made to look like one take. If you've ever seen Birdman or something like that, it's just one long. It's almost like watching a play. The camera just doesn't cut; it follows along. So it gives a very objective um, perspective on everything, and it keeps everything motivated, the movement and things like that. You'll see something. You see this on like Instagram or TikTok videos when people black out the screen. That's so you can cut to something else and make it look like one long shot, right? So This is an example of that, an early example. Great acting, great production design, a lot you can gain from it. Very motivated camera movement, um, and what it's sharing the objectivity for the audience. The other one that we have is The Tree of Life. This movie has Brad Pitt, Jessica Chastain, and Sean Penn. One of my favorite movies of all time, and it's more like a documentary, so it's very subjective camera movement, and it's a harder watch. I'm going to tell you this: when you watch this one, here's my recommendations: get on the biggest screen you can. I wouldn't watch this on a phone. Um, I primarily watch this in theaters. It's a thinking person's movie. It'll require a lot of you because it jumps through time and things like that. But watch the camera. Watch what the camera's doing. It's a tougher watch, but it's really good. It's beautiful. It's works on many levels. It was up for Best Picture at the time. Director is a recluse. Like he doesn't go to awards. He doesn't do press. He doesn't have his picture taken on set. Terrence Malick is his name. He lives in Austin. Anyway, great movie. I did see it in theaters probably 6 times, 7 times, and I would by the third time started playing a count our game and count how many people were leaving the theater because it's not a straightforward film. It's more like a visual art. So what I want you to do is just write 2 paragraphs to a one page. So between 2 paragraphs and one page, keep it academic and focused. Um, on you know basically what did you notice, how are they similar, how are they different, and what are the strengths. Apologize, there's a typo there. Now what I don't want is I hated this movie, it made me so. Okay, you're taking a cinema class, you're going to be exposed to things you don't like. I had to watch many a communist film from like 1910 or 1917, and they're like 5 hours long. Uh, and you're just like, oh my gosh. So I get that. That's not these films. Watch it for the camera. Watch what the camera's doing, um, or not doing. It's not moving very much. It's staying stagnant here, but it's more handheld here. So please look at that. Let me know if there's any issues again with finding them or streaming them or any of that. Spelling and grammar, -2 per infraction, um, and then check that format and the yeah, spelling and grammar. All right, that is all I have for intermediate. I'm gonna try and send out the commercials, things like that, kind of compile them and get them to you. I kind of got a hodgepodge of links and videos, so it takes me a little bit longer to get them all together, but that way you can kind of see what everybody else did. I might not. I don't know. Sometimes some people, it's like, oh, if I just kind of got through this, I don't want others to see it. And oh, I do want to talk about that. Is one issue with the commercials was, um, and I might have not mentioned it well, and the big reason I wanted to do it was because if you decide to go into this industry whatsoever, you'll work on a commercial at some point. You have to get it down to the frame, 30 seconds down to the frame, or 1 minute, or 45 seconds down to the frame. Why? Because they're going to put it out on air, and it's got to be that they're paying for every second of frame time. So it's the same with film. You might get a film and you get a lot of notes. Cut this out, cut that out. We need it down to a minute, an hour and 30 minutes. Not necessarily down to the frame in that circumstances, but they might tell you it's got to be shorter than X amount of time. So being able to adhere to what the producers or executives are telling you to do is a good skill. Or in case of probably what you'll be doing, the client. All right. So that's what I have for intermediate. Please hit me up if you have any questions. And I'm going to move on to fundamentals. So you're done. Okay, fundamentals. Let's see what we got. First thing I want to do is show you. So the horror scene that I had you do was a competition, or a challenge, I guess, for college students, and there's just not a ton of editing footage out there. So this is a good one I found online. I've had some students over the years do some really good ones. Why don't you kind of look at another student's how they did it and see what you think? So establishing the villain, see how music can really add to it, build that sense. See how we have the villain and boom, and that noise that time obviously it wasn't, but we have the villain the first time we see her. This is why this is a good shot to start with. They're in the world together, right? So that's much more dramatic than them being in two separate shots, and the shots are edited together. This makes it strong. This ups the stakes for her. It's looking, she looks, he turns, sees, boom. See that? Building the tension by using turns, she looks close, close. They use a really close up shot for her reaction. The closer we are to her, the closer we are to her emotions at the moment. I think some of you may have not known, maybe didn't go through all the footage. Some of the footage, it's weird. It's like there's clips and you'll get done with that clip, but at the end of that clip, there's more shots. So I think, just studying what's there and start thinking a little bit psychologically about what's going to make this more impactful. So certainly like building up the tension, right? Not just using one shot in here. Like she pops up, she runs out, he chases her. Okay, that's boring. How do we make a horror scene more? Cut, boom, boom, boom. There's action, there's tension, there's stress. All right, the other is this transition over into here. This is something that I might, if you want to, I'll just kind of put it out there. Anybody who wants to edit theirs at any point in the semester, I will look at it and give you more points. This is a tough thing to edit. This is some not great acting, um, and the footage is kind of a hodgepodge. So it takes a special editor to get this looking good. But if you want to go online and see some more that other students have done, and kind of get an idea of that pacing that worked for it, obviously don't copy what they did, but um, I, just it's called Cinestudy Horror Scene Edit Challenge. Just YouTube that and maybe watch some. I've seen every version of this that you can think of. Um, but watch this, the interaction between her and her friend in the kitchen. So see how they use the sound of that teapot in here for a J cut where we're hearing it. It's very subtle. It's like it's going with her scream. Watch. There you can hear the teapot. Boom, she wakes up and we still hear that teapot now. Right? So that's helping to build the world. All right, she comes in again and they cut just a little sooner than I would have, but we know there's the friend right there pouring tea and they're in this world, this kitchen together. All right, so we're establishing the geography of what's going on, the geography and the characters in the room. If there was a third person, the shot should show them here too, right? This is an establishing shot. We're establishing the rules of this scene. There was tea being brewed, and now we see what and who was brewing. Now we can go into these close ups. Now it's a reaction shot using this wide shot again. Back to this. So by cutting where they are, they're cutting around this actress's rather poor performance, um, to give this scene a little bit more life and match on action, right? So she reaches out her hand there. When we come to the next shot, her left arm should be out. So you get the idea. The other is we don't have to show every second of every shot. Some people, it was like, okay, we get the point. He's chasing her. So, like, look, we don't need to see this guy chasing her exit the frame to get the idea of, we don't, it's like, it just becomes instinctual. At what point do I cut this that the audience is going to need it, that they have everything they need to know to keep watching and it makes sense, right? So sometimes we think, oh, I got to show, like, a good example would be I see students do, someone comes home from, or they're leaving work and they walk downstairs, down a hallway, outside, into their car, start their car, show them driving, show them get home, show them unbuckle, show them get out of their car, show them shut the door, walk up to the door, walk in the house. Okay, if we don't need all that, just cut out, and that's an extreme example, but just there, you can see them leaving work, cut to they're walking in the front door of the house, right? Or they're already in the house, and we can understand, okay, they must have driven home from work. We don't need to see everything. So finding that balance of, is the audience understanding? Do they know what's going on? You'll start to see, you worry that your audience is an idiot, right? I I'm sometimes guilty of that. I'm worried they won't understand. They'll get it. That doesn't mean edit where it's clunky and it's like, okay, this was 2.5 minutes and you edited it down to 15 seconds, right? But we don't need everything. Tighten the screws. When you go from your rough cut to, as you're going down, you're cutting out every unnecessary frame, right? So just be aware of that. Again, go on, like I just did horror scene edit cine study, and there was like a million of them that popped up. You can watch other ones. Again, go back, um, look over yours, see how maybe you can improve and get some points back. All right, we're going to be talking about lighting in Module 3. Read Chapter 7 of the Bare Bones Camera Course. You're going to watch two little lectures, one from me and then just a short one online. You have two lighting assignments, and you get to do your first film. Exciting. This will be good. That's why you took the class, to actually get to film things. Okay, so assignment 5, watching for lighting. For this, pick any movie you want. Pick a scene from that movie if you, or the movie in and of itself, but I just pick a scene. Um, you can branch out, find that new movie that you've always been needing to watch and say, okay, I'll do this one, or one that you're familiar with. Look for anything, and obviously watch those lectures first before you start this, but look for anything that helped to tell the story through lighting. Please write 250 words, one full page. Obviously use the standards I set out in the syllabus, things like MLA, double spacing, uh, things like that. You can put pictures in if you want as well. They don't account for the word count, but you can put them in there. um, Keep your writing academic and check your spelling. So you're just looking for, how did lighting help tell this story? So what do I mean by keeping it academic? There's saying something like, the lighting helped make the scene scary. How? Why was that important? What did it do? So this is an example from The Godfather. If you don't know of a film to pick The Godfather. It's awesome. The darklit room helped to symbolize the hidden dark side of Michael Corleone, who was once pure innocent, of who was once pure and innocent of the mafia life. So we see the room he's in getting darker and darker throughout the film. Or by keeping the character's eyes darkened, the audience is continually guessing at the true motives of Michael's character. So you can see, and if you've ever seen The Godfather, it was renowned, criticized for creating raccoon eyes, darkness around here, so it looks like you're wearing sunglasses. But it was completely intentional because it keeps you. That's why cops wear sunglasses, right? So we don't know what they're thinking. Or coaches, right? It's a power thing. So they kind of did that on purpose, so we don't get a great look at their eyes. So we're constantly looking to them, looking to their eyes for information. So again, find what you liked. How did the lighting help tell the story? All right. Assignment 6, pictures. I don't know why it did this for some reason. But anyway, you're going to take a series of pictures that are going to be based on some of the lighting schemes that I talk about in the lecture. Um, there's an example, and you'll follow that. You're going to take a certain, I think it's 7 pictures, and I'll show you what they are. Um, Again, watch lectures ahead of time, but just know you can use things like windows for light. You can use if there's any lights in your dorm, like an actual practical light, things like that, that motivate, like, oh, the light's coming in this way. Why? Because I can see a lamp over there. Something like that. What I wouldn't use are fluorescent lights, lights that are, just overhead. So you might have to get a little bit creative with how you find them or where. You could always use the sun if you find something reflective, a piece of white cloth. If you go to a hardware store and buy for like $1 a piece of white foam board, even at like Walmart might have them, and you just hold the board so it's catching the light outside and you can bounce it. But you'll put all of the pictures that you take onto one document. Please don't upload them individually. It drives me nuts. Take your pictures, put it on a Word doc. You can make that into a PDF or just turn in the Word doc. And then you'll label each of them. So let me show you. Here's the example. So you'll take one high key shot. These will make sense when you watch a lecture. One high key shot, one low key shot, one pictorial lighting, one soft lighting, one hard lighting, and one silhouette. All right. So just however you want. Uh, if you're having a hard time finding a model or someone to step in for you, I've seen people get creative, but you might need to find an actual human. This might not be one you can do with stuffed animals or things like that, but uh, just get creative with how you're doing it. You'll again learn these terms and how to do it after you've watched the lectures. Okay, hero goal obstacle. Uh, it really should be hero obstacle goal, but I always just call it this. So I just want you to film a simple story using the hero goal obstacle story that we studied in narrative. Keep it easy on yourself. Make it simple. This is not you making your first masterpiece. This is you getting your hands wet. So don't create a story of ninjas invading Manhattan on a skyscraper. Keep it student in a dorm, right? Something easy, something you have access to. You're probably going to need an actor. I've seen some students make it to where they're their own actor. Um, that limits what you can do with a camera, but it can be done. Vary your shots. Don't just make it these big wide shots all the time. Vary it up. Wide, medium, close up, high shots, low shots, things of that, and then have some kind of lighting scheme. Is it high key? Is it low key? Things like that. Okay, so it needs to be 45 seconds to 2 minutes. Um, I'll take off points if it's not that. It must be 16 by 9 and 24 frames per second. The edit should be smooth. There should be no flash frames. What a flash frame is sometimes, like, say you have shot A and you have shot B, they don't fully stick together. When you're editing it, like if you have shot A set up and you bring in shot B, it stops just like right there. So there's this tiny gap between them, and that's going to register as a quick blip of black that just shows up, and it's jarring if you're watching it. So happens to the best of us, but it's usually a sign that you didn't watch what you edited after you exported it. You just assumed it was there. So you don't want to be caught. It's kind of a pretty unprofessional thing, especially when you get up to a career and let's say you're editing or you've just sent something that's like 45 minutes to a client and you're going to have to go back and take out that one frame. Uh, yeah, so just watch for that. Uh, make sure your audio is balanced. That is that your audio is not exceeding on that decibel level, kind of on the well, I don't have Premiere open. Open it really quick so you can see. Uh, so it's balanced, right? It's not too loud, it's not too quiet. We can hear and understand it. And I show in the videos how to balance your audio. I just mean raise and lower the volume so it's at the appropriate level. Um, please put your name and title over a black screen for 3 seconds in the beginning. Upload the video file not the project file. All right. So I had you do that for the Eagle edit, mostly so you know, or the horror, one of the two. I had you upload both. That's just so you learn the difference between both. Um, but now I just need the video file. Perfectly fine. So what I want you to do is just create a cohesive story and tell it in a smooth way. Have fun and enjoy the process. And then, the above is graded on my criteria and discretion. So really, the simple way of doing this is somebody wants something and something is standing in their way. And that goes with our idea of a value change from positive to negative or negative to positive. We talked about that in narrative. So, love, positive; hate, negative; ignorance, negative; knowledge, positive; without something, with something; without, negative; with, positive. A good scene should change. Think of Rudy. He went from um, not on the football team to on the football team. Uh, not in Notre Dame to in Notre Dame. Not having played a game to in a playing game. So uh, you can see that's what a good. You never go from a positive to positive. Um, Super rich kid gets everything he wants in life. Okay, what's that? That's not much of a story. Um, Super rich kid who's lost everything regains his or her life through hard work. Okay, lost everything, gained everything. That's the entire premise of Schitt's Creek right there. uh, Rags to riches, right? So be thinking of that. Keep it simple. When I did something kind of like this for my first assignment, I did it where a door to door, like a door to door Bible salesman and a door to or two missionaries arrive at the same house at the same time, and it's kind of a fight to the death of who's going to get to the door first. Just kind of a fun comedy. Um, but you get the idea. Anyway, that's what I have for you for module 3. Again, if you need help with anything, email me at any time. I am always here for you, and I hope things are going smoothly and the semester is going well. All right. God bless everyone. Take care.